go ahead and jump right in then today. We're going to go over posting rent and making deposits. Everybody's got rent collection week coming up next week, so figure that's probably a good one to pay attention to. So, first part is you actually have to get the rent from residents. Can't do anything in the system if they don't actually turn it in. So, when you collect your rent, remember if you're collecting it after today, A, if you're collecting it today and it's for July rent, you need to hold it for the month of July. And then B, if you collect it between tomorrow and the end of the month, you need to make sure to hold it and wait until the first of the month to post it, because we do have accounting blackout period that starts after today's business. And we cut off business for the month a few days before month end, so accounting has enough time to get everybody's financials situated and sent out for monthly reports. So you get your rent. You want to make sure that you are A, writing receipts to your residents, but B, you also want to make sure that you're immediately stamping them. Every property should have a, somebody keeps beeping in on us, so if I keep going in and out, it's not my fault. But everybody should have a bank stamp. You should actually probably have two. One that is your security deposit stamp and one is your operating account stamp. You want to make sure you're using the proper one. If they're not labeled easily, I always did a label maker tape and printed out a label maker tape that said operating and then one that said security deposit, so that I would keep them straight and it's easy to find. So you want to make sure that you stamp the checks immediately as they're coming in. So that happens in case they get stolen or they get misplaced. That, got technology beeping all over the place. It's distracting. That they're stamped for deposit only into the account of da-da-da-da-da. For our new properties, if you haven't gotten deposit stamps yet, just write for deposit only on the back of the check. And that's all you have to say, just for deposit only. And that way they can only go into an account that's labeled with your property name. Does that make sense to everybody in my rambling and interruptions with all my beeping? Alright. We do not accept cash for anything. Anything. I don't care if somebody has a $2 balance, they need to bring you a $2 money order. We don't accept cash. This is for your protection. It is also for the residents' protection. So a couple of things. Number one, if they come in and they hand you cash and you lose the cash, you get in a car accident and you get out with your body intact and no injuries, but suddenly your car goes up in flames and it burns up your bank bag. Checks, money orders, they can be replaced. If cash gets burned up, it's gone. There's no replacing that. You can't go to the U.S. Treasury and say, my money got burned up. I had this much. Can you replace it for me? It doesn't work that way. So that's for their safety. Other reason is it's for your safety. We do not want people knowing that we accept cash in our office, because if they hand you $400 cash at the beginning of the month, they're going to assume that every other person walking in here might have handed you $400 cash for their rent. And guess what? The likelihood of you being jumped when you step foot out your door to run to the bank with that bank bag goes up. So that's why we do not want you to accept cash. Everyone should have a sign posted clearly in their office that says, no cash accepted. If you don't, literally go into Microsoft Word and type up a nice little thing that you can print out and put in a frame that says, we do not accept cash. You can put it in a frame, put it on display, and then everybody knows that you don't take cash. Still, once you've collected all your money and it's time to actually start getting it posted in the system, you want to get out your appropriate deposit ticket book. So, again, you should have a deposit ticket book for security deposits and a deposit ticket book for operating accounts. Make sure you're using the right one. The only thing that is going to go into your security deposit account is refundable security deposits. So you should only be using this if you have money from a move-in. This also means that if you have money from a move-in, you need to inform them that they need to bring their security deposit money order, because we only accept move-in money with certified funds. They need to bring that in a separate form of payment. So if they are moving in with prorated rent, they have pet fees, they have garage rent or something like that, all of that can be in one payment, but your security deposit needs to be in a separate payment so that it goes in the correct account. So make sure you select the appropriate deposit ticket book depending on what you're depositing. If you're a leasing consultant and you give your money to your assistant manager, your bookkeeper, or your manager for posting, put a sticky note on the security deposit that says security deposit, and just stick that right on the payment so that it is clear that that is for security deposit funds and there's no confusion. If you don't have deposit books yet for your property, make sure you get the account number from your regional manager or from Jerry, and go to the bank and get blank deposit slips that you can fill out until your printed deposit tickets come to your property. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right. So your deposit tickets, on the front of them, it's going to have usually 28 spaces for you to write check numbers, sometimes 17. It depends on your bank and what your deposit tickets look like. But you don't want to list any more than the spaces you have on the front of your deposit slip. Don't list checks on the back. There are line items for the back. But it makes it more complicated to balance your batches, especially if it's the beginning of the month and you have tons and tons of batches of rent. Use the front of your deposit slips. You can make as many deposits as you want. Deposit slips are relatively inexpensive, so when you get low, you need to order more. It's not that big a deal. The reason this is important is because, like I said, it makes it more simple for you to balance. When I first started doing training for some of our staff, or actually before I started doing training for some of our staff, I was trying to help a property manager at one of our properties. And she had made a rather large error in her deposit. She had over-reported the amount of the money that she was taking to the bank. The bank called when they did the reconciliation and realized they didn't have that amount of money. And what had happened was she forgot to add the back of the checks on some of the reports. She had double added checks on some of the deposits. It was just a complicated mess. And to simplify these things for you, just use the front of your deposit book, and you might have 10 deposits that way, but it'll make it a little bit easier for you. So once you've listed all your checks out, and you're going to put your check number on the front of the deposit slip as well as the amount, and it's time to post them actually in Rep Manager. So you're going to go into Rep Manager, and you're going to go to Customers, and find the customer for that first check. So select them. You can either have them sorted by alphabetically, by their name, or by their apartment number. You find them in Rep Manager. And then you're going to go down to their Payments tab, and you're going to enter this information in. This drop-down menu allows you to select cash. You're never going to select that one because we don't accept cash. Then you have CC, and that's what you're going to use for personal checks. And then you have MO for money order or cashier's check. That's what you're going to put in this drop-down menu. If you are posting a Section 8 deposit, like an electronic ACH that comes in and you're posting that, you can type S8. You can type in that drop-down menu too, and then you would put S8 in that window for Section 8. So accounting knows that that's an ACH from Section 8. If you have one of those deposits and the first time that you're doing it, please feel free to call me and I can help you walk you through it. But most of the time you're going to be selecting CC for personal check or MO for money order. Your transaction memo, this is going to be the check or money order number exactly as it appears on the item. Make sure that you're typing it exactly the way that it's on there, because if you ever need to search for that check number or that money order number, can you guys hang on 1 second? This person has called probably 6 times in the last 10 minutes that we've been on the phone. Give me just 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. I've called like a million times. Probably not working. Okay, can everybody hear me again? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Alrighty. Okay. So your transaction memo is going to be your check or money order number, exactly as it appears on the item. The date is automatically going to pull up the date. Remember that you can't post rent between tomorrow and the end of the month. End of month financial cutoff is usually the 26th of the month, but it might be the preceding business day if the 26th falls on a weekend or a holiday. So most of the time it's the 26th, but it could be the 25th or the 24th, and then that will show up on your monthly calendar that goes out at the end of the month for the following month every month. Your amount, obviously that is going to be the amount of the check or the money order. And once you fill out all that information, you're going to click the add button. So if the resident is paying more than what they owe, so for example, for this particular person, I typed in money order number $300, and it was $279 over what their current balance was, it's going to pop up this allocate prepaid box. You always want to click don't allocate, because you don't want to allocate that amount to a certain category and have the next charge not be that category, because then it would show a balance and a credit on the account, and you have to do credit applications in the system, and it just gets really complicated. And just always hit do not allocate so that it will allocate the overpayment to the next thing that comes up. Does that make sense to everybody? Alright. So, you're going to go through steps 9 through 16 that I just went through and post all of your checks on that batch. You want to do each batch at a time. So that you don't go through 600 checks and then add up at the end of the time. You want to make sure you post each deposit separately. So once you've done your first batch, your first deposit, you're going to add up the amount on a ticker tape. So take your checks and look at them, add them up on a ticker tape. If you don't have an adding machine with a ticker tape, you're not that old school, you can do the same thing in Excel. Type the amount numbers in Excel. You can do it on a regular calculator as well, but then if you make a mistake, you can't see that you made the mistake, and it's more difficult to fix it. So it's easier to add them up to do your double check on either an adding machine with the ticker tape or in Excel, because you can see exactly what you typed in for the amount. And you're going to do that on your deposit ticket, add what you wrote down on your deposit ticket, and then you're going to add the amount from the checks themselves. And then you can look in Rent Manager to make sure it matches your undeposited funds. So if you're on the call yesterday, we talked about this reminder screen. And one of the things that pops up, and it's always the first thing, is your undeposited funds. And if you just posted your checks, if you hit the refresh list button, it'll update this number to everything that you just posted. So you should have three numbers that all say the same thing. Your amount and rent manager, your ticker tape from the checks themselves, and your ticker tape adding up the amounts that you wrote on your deposit ticket. If two items match and one doesn't, there's probably an error on the one that does not. Usually that's probably going to be in Rent Manager if you misposted something, or on your adding machine from your deposit slip. We want to double check them, and in this case triple check them, because we want to make sure that we're entering everything correctly and that we're putting the right amount in the bank. It's very important that you do your double check and not assume that you entered the correct amount in Rent Manager. It may seem faster, it may seem more efficient, but it's really not. Because if it gets to the bank and it's wrong, just because you didn't take the extra time to add it up, there's a lot of problems. Banking has to do an adjustment to the deposit. On the back side in accounting, we have to do an adjustment to the deposit. It's just a mess. So make sure you're taking the time to double check. Now, if you have an additional deposit after you've done your first one, go ahead and write your total amount on a deposit slip, because at this point you triple check that you know it's accurate. And if you have another deposit to batch, you're going to go back and start all over again. You're going to fill out your deposit slip, you're going to enter your rent in Rent Manager, and you're going to check your totals. The only difference is if you're doing additional deposits, is your undeposited funds amount is going to be the total of all your deposits. You don't want to close out your deposits in Rent Manager until you've actually gone to the bank, physically made the deposit, and come back. The reason being, things happen in property management every day. You could sit here, close out your deposit, and have every intention of picking up your purse, grabbing your deposit, and heading out to the door to the bank. But just as you get to the door, an angry resident comes in, or the fire department shows up, or the police show up, or something happens, and the rest of your day is blown and you haven't gotten to the bank. Rent Manager now says you made a deposit that you haven't made, and that's a problem. So you want to make sure that you're not closing out the deposits until you actually get back from the bank. If you do your deposits on your way home from work, you can come in the next morning and close them out and just backdate the deposit so your dates on the deposit match. And I'll get to where you change that in just a second. Does anybody have any questions so far? Alrighty. Is anybody listening to me? Feel like I might be talking You're listening, Shannon. Like, is anybody out there? So, double check your amount. If you have the multiple deposits and you've triple checked all the deposits before, and you find there's an error in the adding machine for like your third or fourth or fifth deposit, chances are the error is probably in that last one that you just did, because you double checked all the other ones and they were correct. Your error is probably in the last one. So once you find the error, you can go in, and if you found a check that you misposted for the incorrect amount, I can show you right here in Rent Manager here real quick how you would fix that. So say you're going through your adding and you wrote $300 on a check, and it was or when you put it in Rent Manager, and when you're doing your adding, you realize it's actually $300.99. Happens all the time. You can go right into the customer and go to my list and find somebody. go right into their current customers, right into their transaction screen, and you'll have to click on that payment once, like for example, this one was supposed to be $405.99. Click delete and delete that payment and repost it for the correct amount. You can't, a lot of things you can just edit, like if I wanted to edit the June rent charge, I could double click and open it and change the amount. But with payments, you actually have to delete them and then repost so that you make sure that it gets correct. On the same thing, if you find out that you posted something to, in this case, Kristen's account, and it was supposed to go to Mariah's account, you can delete it from Kristen and then go into Mariah and then post the payment there. Does anybody have any questions on that?
No, ma'am.
All right. Before you go to the bank, make copies. Copy all of your checks and all of your deposit slips, group them together in the deposit, because you might have to reference them later. We all make mistakes. I've done it myself where I've misposted a check and I've not caught it. We've sent somebody a late letter and they've come in and they're like, I paid my rent, it cleared my bank account. What happened to it? And you can go in, find out what deposit is in, flip through the copies, and then figure out where you posted that and either fix it yourself, because you can do that, and if you ever run across that, call me and I can walk you through it. Or if it is in a previous reporting period, accounting would have to make that fix. But if it's in the current reporting period, you can fix it. Just takes a few steps, and you can call me and I can walk you through that. But you want to make sure that you're copying all of your checks and your deposit slips so you have them. We do keep them for a year. So what I recommend is you start a revolving file if you don't have them already, and you have a January, February, March, April, May, June, for every month. And you put all your deposits for each month in that folder. And then once you get to June next year, you can take June this year out, shred them, start putting June next year in. Does that make sense? Okay. Don't throw checks away. When you get to that year mark, don't just throw them away. They have personal information, they have routing numbers, bank account numbers. Make sure that you're shredding them so that we're keeping people's identity and their important information safe. But once you've made all your copies, double check your copier to make sure that there are no checks left on it. I've done that myself before too. It happens, you get in a hurry, you're like, oh, copies are done, you take your money, you run out, and you left your last 3 checks on the copy machine. It happens, but just make sure that you try to double check that. And then you can go to the bank. So you go into the bank, and you take your money, you take your deposits, you give it to them, they're going to give you a receipt. Usually if you're using our standard deposit tickets, you're going to get the yellow copy back as well as the printed copy from the bank. Then you can come back into Rent Manager and you can actually close out your deposit. So to do that, you're back in Rent Manager, you're going to click on this deposits button. If you have access to multiple properties, make sure that you're selecting the property that you're closing the deposits out to. And then it's going to pull up all the checks. If you had 10 deposits that you just took to the bank, it's going to pull them all up. You want to unselect all because we want to close out each individual deposit on its own. And they're going to put the checks in the order that you posted them. So your first 28 will be on top, your second 28, and so on and so forth. They'll be in order. It should be easy to go down the line and check off the checks for each individual deposit. So you're going to unselect all, and then you click on each individual check that falls in that first deposit. Your total amount should pop up, and that should match your yellow receipt. It should match your printed receipt from the bank. And then it should automatically select your operating account. You can change this if you are making a deposit into your security deposit account. You need to make sure that this has the correct account on there. And then right here, I mentioned earlier, if you're going to the bank on your way home, and then you're closing them out in the morning when you get back, like I said, that's fine. But this will pull up today's date, so make sure that you select your drop-down box and you change your date to yesterday's date. Does that make sense? Okay. Then you you're going to click your make deposit box, and it's going to pop up this, are you sure? And it's going to have the amount, are you sure you don't want to make this deposit for da-da-da-da-da? If that matches the deposit amount, then yes, you're sure you want to make that deposit. If it doesn't, click no, figure out what the problem was. Maybe you accidentally unchecked the check. And then just recheck that one or what have you. But if it matches, click yes. It's going to pull up this bank deposit completed. You're going to click OK. And then it'll pull this up. You don't need to change any of the options. Just click create report. And then it'll pull up a deposit detail report, which lists each individual payment that was made on that deposit, tells you what date, the deposit ID. You're going to print that out, and then you are going to staple that deposit detail to all the copies of your checks and the receipts you got from the bank. And then that pack is what's going to go in that deposit folder that we were talking about earlier, your January, February, March, da-da-da. So remember, if you have multiple batches, don't lump them all into one deposit detail. The reason is, and they might all add up to what you took to the bank, but it makes it very difficult for accounting to reconcile the reports at the end of the month. Your bank statement is going to show each individual deposit that you made throughout the month. And if accounting has to pick and choose which ones add up and make that big, gigantic lump that you put in the system, it adds an extra headache to their financial reconciliation process, and nobody needs an extra headache. So make sure that you're breaking them all out into your individual deposits. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So don't run, just remember not to run that deposit detail before you go to the bank. You can do that the day you get back if you're doing it on your way home. Once you run the report, it makes it very difficult to make changes. So it's just easier to make the changes if there is anything incorrect when you went to the bank. For example, if you forgot those checks on the copier, and they didn't really get included in that deposit when you bought there, you can fix that on your own if you haven't closed out the deposit. So you want to make sure that you don't close it out before you get to the bank. So like I said, once you've printed everything out, save it all together, keep them together by the month, make sure to shred anything old. We don't want to hold money. And you want to make sure that you're going to a bank on the last day of the reporting period if you have money for the current reporting period. So if today you get somebody that's paying a late June balance, go to the bank. We do not want to post something in Rent Manager and then not actually take it, because that'll close out your month with undeposited funds, and it again adds another step to the accounting process that gives them a headache. So make sure to go to the bank if you posted in Rent Manager. If you went to the bank at say 3 and somebody comes in with a $25 check and you know you're not going to have a chance to get to the bank today, don't post it in Rent Manager. Wait to hold it until the next reporting period, so in this case, July 1st. Don't post checks or deposit checks that are for a future reporting period. So if Sylvia came in, I made this training a long time ago, Sylvia came in the end of July with her August rent payment, make sure to hold it until August. Make sure that if it's a personal check that you're telling Sylvia that we're not going to the bank with this check until August because it is an August payment, so that she knows not to expect it to clear her bank before then. But it does funny things for our financials, especially as most of our properties are on cash basis accounting. So just try to remember to do that. The only exception to that is somebody comes in to make a large prepayment for several months on one money order on one check. Go ahead and post that and take that to the bank immediately, unless it comes through accounting blackout, then you're going to wait until the first. But we have a couple student housing properties. Everybody knows that tax time is a big time for people to make large payments. We don't want to miss out on rent because we're telling them we can only take rent a month at a time. but we don't want to hold it. We want to make sure that it gets in the system and we get it taken care of. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Well, that is the basics of posting rent and going to the bank.
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to take laundry money and deposit. How do I do that?
Good question. Any money that you get from third-party vendors, for one, you're going to want to put it on its own deposit. You don't have to. It just makes the process easier. And this is one time that you can close out the deposit before you go to Rent Manager. To post that, you're going to go to your deposits button just like you were closing something out and select your property just like normal. And then down here at the bottom, we have what's called a step 3 deposit, and that's where you're going to put it. So you'll select your property from the drop-down menu, Alpine, and then you don't need to put the unit in. Your reference number, just like you're posting any other payment, is going to be that check number, whatever it may be. Your income account for laundry, you're going to find, they'll be down here in the 4,000 account numbers.
Okay.
Of your laundry and vending. That's going to be your most popular step 3. Sometimes you do get refunds from utility companies for overpayments on, we'll say, electricity. That happens from time to time when accounts get closed out. In that case, you're going to post it to the expense category. So if it's an electricity refund, it's going to go to the electricity expense account. But for your laundry and vending, you're going to select laundry and vending and say it's for this month's income, 0614 laundry collection. And then your amount. And then it'll automatically select your operating account, your deposit date, and your click make deposit, and then you'll go through printing out the report and the ticket just like any other deposit.
Okay, cool. Now, even if the laundry income is in cash, because we have one building where it's still coin op.
Yep, you'll do it the same way.
So for the rest, because it's cash, what would I say? Like today?
You can do the cash in that case.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
And then in that case, you probably have to go to the bank before you're doing this part because they probably pay it for you through their coin machine, I imagine. And then you just do it when you get back.
Okay, cool.
If you have multiple things like that, like bad debt and vending machine money, you put those all on there and just keep going down on one deposit?
Yes, just going down. Yes, once you do your one line item, enter it, it'll allow you to add another one, and so on and so forth.
After you move somebody out and they've paid, like I saw a pet fee, and once they've been taken out of the system, then that's where you would apply that money as well?
If the bad debt has been written off, yes. If you look at their customer screen and, like, go to a past resident, let's see if I can find something. Like, this person still has a balance and it's not written off, you can post it to their account just like normal. But if they had bad debt here and it has 0 balance because it's already been adjusted off your book, then you're going to post it to collection income. Collection income, 4905. Anybody else have any questions? All right, then we are done for the day.